Liar Liar, Pants on Fire by Errol. Welcome everyone. The following presentation is going to continue to provide an overview on the exemplification genre. And today's essay that we observe is an essay by Errol Morris. To provide a brief background on him, he is an American filmmaker and writer. And I think more importantly, above everything, whether in his films or other essays, he likes to emphasize and attempt to negotiate these aspects of truthfulness, of perception and truthfulness. Uh, if you've never seen it, he's got an incredible film it's a documentary called The Thin Blue Line, in which he observes how an innocent man got accused for a murder he didn't commit, and how the legal system ultimately um, uh, was fairly unjust in its conclusions, right? The manner in which he came to these conclusions. Okay, in terms of the essay, remember the every exemplification essay has to have an argument, a very clear argument, and even further than that, the manner in which that argument is defended is by a series of examples. Okay. In this essay, he is emphasizing pictures, an image, and the extent to which that image provides um, a deepened sense of context, circumstances, occurrences, events, and ultimately, do they tell the truth? Do these pictures indeed tell the truth? So let's observe his arguments. Right off the bat, right at the beginning of his essay, he begins, "Pictures are supposed to be worth 1,000 words, but a picture unaccompanied by words may not mean anything at all." So if we break down the picture again, the emphasis is pictures. And what's the point he's making? The point is that this picture here may not really mean anything at all. Why not? Well, it doesn't have any words. Meaning, I think that the interpretation of that statement goes beyond what's simply there on the surface, and I think ultimately it is that the picture doesn't have a description, doesn't have an explanation, doesn't have an account of what this picture is generally about. So let's observe how he exemplifies this. His first example is a personal example. He says, "I'm looking at a picture of myself, or looking at pictures, and let's say I'm in the picture or family's in the picture. These are pictures that are very directly relevant to me. But to what extent do these own personal pictures, do my own personal pictures provide me with a sense of truthfulness?" And I think what Errol Morris is getting at here is, so with regards to, at least with those personal pictures, one's childhood or one's past, is the frailties of truth of our memory, the extent to which we can depend on our memory for intricately describing the events of a particular day, or who was there at that moment. Can we, without fail, account for that day's events, maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, right? Can we even remember yesterday with absolute intricacy? His second example is he provides us with a picture of a ship. And if like most people, like most observers observing this picture, one may quickly conclude that this picture is in fact a picture of the Titanic. You say, oh yeah, that's the Titanic. But if we're observing the picture without those captions, you notice I quickly added the caption there. Without those captions, how do we know it is the Titanic? How do we know? I mean, it's good to assume, but is the influence of pictures in having us make a conclusion, and promptly at times, um, is that the manner in which we're obtaining a sense of truthfulness? So you see the dangers a little bit with images. I mean, uh, pictures are incredible, right? They provide a new modality, right? A new mode um, in which to interpret the world, in which to enliven the world, entertain the world. Right? Well, ultimately, Errol Morris, he says, what if I put the caption, the Lusitania? And, and same thing, you know, how do I know it's the Lusitania? How do I know it's the Titanic? Is it simply a matter of changing the caption? So look, here's the ship. It's the Titanic. No, it isn't. It's the Lusitania. Just kidding. It is the Titanic. See, I can very manipulatively, by means of a caption, shift and change the meaning of something, right? And so he'll go into detail about the Lusitania and the history, about how it was a ship that was sunk by the Germans and was a key attribute of the World War One. And he goes into several details encompassing the Lusitania. So even with the caption, the Lusitania, do we understand this picture? Were we there? Did we live it? Did we experience it? And unless you were there, then your understanding and the truthfulness of those occurrences, um, well, it's going to have some gaps, right? So let's observe how Errol Morris then links several other the further examples he provides in his essay are in connection with the Lusitania. For example, the aspect of propaganda. So here's this propaganda poster. It is a World War I propaganda poster asking U.S. soldiers to enlist in the U.S. Army, right? Or suggesting, motivating U.S. soldiers to enlist in the U.S. Army. And I mean, it's very, very direct, very bold. And he says, destroy this mad brute. And in addition, there's the picture of a um, enraged ape, and there's the sense, the woman, there's a sense of innocence being corrupted, right, by this mad brute, quote unquote. Well, let's analyze it a little bit. Is it true that Germany is a country of mad brutes, and that we must save the world from this mad brute? Is is um, is every German soldier this senseless ape? Are German politicians these senseless apes? Right? We can be critical, but we can also be uh, we can also be we can also provide a counter to such a critique. Um, Common sense would tell us, I'm not certain to the extent to which these German soldiers or this German government, the extent to which they are in fact senseless brutes, right? Now, would the image probably be effective? Of course, because it plays with the senses. And I think that's one key notion in an image, that the immediacy of visualization maybe provokes a sense of feeling, and thus that feeling would then provoke our perception and interpretation of things. Okay. The next example is an example of a gentleman by the name of Percy Rogers. And it's said, he has this a watch, and it tells kind of a heroic story. Well, not a kind of, it is a heroic story, if it is in fact true, of a gentleman by the name of Percy Rogers who was there helping others escape the boat and getting them out of the sinking ship. And it was in a newspaper article, and one of the quotes says, "The watch stopped at exactly 2:30 after ticking off 30 of the most terrible minutes in history." And further on, afterwards, it also states, it quotes the official German statement following the sinking of the Lusitania: "Every German heart is filled with joy, pride, and gratification." So in a way, it's also now, here's the thing. This newspaper is attempting to tell the truth. Well, I shouldn't say attempting. We should ask, is this newspaper attempting to tell the truth? Or is it attempting to do something else? Much like the propaganda poster, is that propaganda poster telling the absolute truth? Here's the newspaper article. Is this account of Percy Rogers and the perception of the Germans as individuals who are joyous and prideful and indulge with gratification due to the sinking of this ship? Again, common census tells us probably not the case. So what is in fact the truthfulness of a picture? Is a picture, I'm sure there's absolute certainty in images, right? There's got to be some certainty. But what is the extent to which these images have that certainty? He brings us full circle, Errol Morris does. And he shows us the Lusitania again, showing us the example, furthering the example. Now that we observe the Lusitania, that we've researched a little bit, that we see some of its history, right? The perceptions of people, of Percy Rogers. There's another story of a mother who was sinking to the bottom while cradling her child. How the Germans were bombing the ship. See, the point is, now that I have an understanding of this image, now I view it differently. Now the truthfulness of the picture has changed. So maybe it's not the image in and of itself that tells us the truth, but rather, the further research, the further study, exploration, inquiry, in which we empower ourselves towards understanding something. So then he modifies his thesis at the end, and the thesis at the end of the essay. A lot of great writers position their thesis at the end. It states, "Photographs are neither true nor false in and of themselves. They are only true or false with respect to statements that we make about them or the questions that we might ask of them." And so if you look at this argument now, right, it's now defending and accounting for the truthfulness of an image, in which that truthfulness comes about through a further understanding of the image, right? So here's his argument, exemplified by a personal account of his childhood, images of the Lusitania and the Titanic, that version of the mother drowning while cradling her child, Percy Rogers, and so you see the extent to which Errol Morris exemplifies his argument, provides these series of anecdotal examples all throughout his essay. I hope this helps you. I hope it provides you with a clear account of both this essay and the exemplification genre. And I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.